Okay, hi everyone. We are looking at engine connectivity engineering, which is lots of software engineering kinds of things. So let's start off, parallel tools.
Yes, so there are two topics that I concentrated on for the next version. One is faster kernel launching, where I can give a
Thank
demo.
goodness.
The other is parallel table with a deep parallelization of tables
Good.
and some discussion of some of the issues on how to specify what to do exactly.
Okay, fast kernel launching.
Okay, let's.
Is there anything to really show here? I mean, or is it just like it runs faster?
No, I mean I can show you why it is faster. So I have a couple of very diverse kernel configurations: local, remote, WSDP server, SSH, local kernels.
I
And
believe you, but use
mhm,
kernel forking. Is that a documented feature now?
that will be in the next. I mean, it's already in the code, but because there are some licensing issues, it's not yet documented.
Okay, what are the, for kernel configuration, what are the other things that can go in that second argument? Is it an association generally, and this is just a cheapo syntax that uses that string list?
It can any number of documented options.
But I mean, are they real options that should be symbols, or are they something which lives in an association and should be strings?
They are strings. I mean, internally it will all turn into an association, but I mean for the
Okay,
for the
but
for the,
can
for
the
the
user, if we're documenting it as an
Mhm.
association, then it's fine for them to be strings. If we're not, if we're documenting them as options, then we got to talk about that.
Okay, I mean we can. It's nothing new. I mean that has been in the code for about three versions
Well,
now.
can you
Yeah.
show me what the list of, so the second argument of kernel configuration can be an association, true or not true?
No, this is not true.
Well, that has to be fixed. If those are
Okay.
string options,
So these are all the yes.
okay,
No,
they
I mean
should
it
be
would
able to
make
be in an
sense. It would
association.
make sense
So then
to
there's
accept it.
nothing more to say about it. I mean,
Okay, good.
that's fine.
Let's do that.
And then the syntax that doesn't involve an association is a kind of a courtesy
Option.
syntax.
It's an option syntax. Yes.
Right, but it's a courtesy syntax. It is not the primary
Yes.
documented syntax. The primary documented
At the
syntax will
moment
be
it is. It
association.
is the
I
only.
understand, so
Yeah.
I think it
Okay.
should be
So
changed.
you want to change that? Yes.
I think it should be changed. I mean,
Now
it
what?
should continue to work, but that we don't do string options
Mhm.
generally,
I
but
mean
we
for the
do strings and associations.
yes, in a more long-term way, I'm trying to extend the URL syntax so that everything that would require an option or association could be specified in the URL. And so it is in a single place that has advantages for persistent storage.
Okay,
But
but I
So
mean,
the,
why isn't this set up in analogy to the way that we do LLM configurations and other things, where the actual configuration thing is somehow stored as metadata? The whole symbolic configuration object is stored as metadata.
I would have to look at this. This is obviously younger than this code here.
It is. So why don't you look at it?
Okay.
Does anybody in this group know how it works? Go ahead, please.
I just worry that about that question mark thing, and how it might clash with, a real, like, this is clearly like some kind of pseudo URL thing, and I wonder.
If it clashes with a real URL, I agree.
Exactly.
I
I
don't
mean,
think it's a good idea. I mean,
the question mark is the standard
I know, but
separate.
the point that Carlo is raising is, it could be the case that you need an option to SSH that is eaten by some innards of some, authentication system. You see what I'm saying? And we don't want to muddle that up with a use kernel forking option, which is eaten by the destination, stuff in our code.
But there are standard ways of doing things like that. Like, for example, in database reference, there is a standard magic string which is URL-like, but it's not really a URL because it uses a different scheme, which is not a real URL scheme. So you can do basically whatever
Okay.
you want. But I wonder if SSH, like that question mark, looks like the thing you do for URL parameters. And I wonder, if SSH supports that in any form or way.
Okay, but we don't just have SSH. It's not the only protocol. So in general, there will be protocols that do not support any given thing.
Yeah, I mean, like this one, which we made up ourselves.
Right. Well, that we can make support anything we want because it's our protocol. But look, my suggestion is do it like LLM configuration. I
Mhm.
don't completely remember how that all works, but fundamentally it is storing, and it's similar also to the way that external evaluation registration works, right, which has many options as well. Am I making sense? Maybe somebody here, maybe Ricardo can speak to that one. Ricardo?
Yes, I'm here, but I don't have a good suggestion here. I don't understand what is question mark 4 doing.
It's starting 4 kernels. I don't think it's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I chose
Well,
that
then
because that
probably
is
just a better way to do it would be to add something like kernel equals to 4.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, because this is the most often used one, so I wanted it to be short, but
that's
that
fine.
is
But I think that it should be available as a part of the association that comes as the second argument of kernel.
it is. I mean, you can alternatively you can always say kernel count.
But can you specify the port in the URL?
Yeah. I mean that is a standard. That is a standard
With colon.
Yes, I mean that's standard URL syntax, and that is also standard URL syntax. And
No,
anything after that is whatever I can do whatever I want after that.
no, you can't. I think it's question mark, and then it's not exactly whatever, is it, Ricardo? Do you remember?
I mean, it's either a list of query arguments, or it can actually be a single thing after question mark.
Well,
But
we also have
that is
functions
very
like
old.
URL parse that are supposed to deal with URLs according to the standard syntax for URLs.
But why this is not an option? Just kernel count goes to 4. Seems to be a little bit cleaner to me. Yes.
Yeah, but I want a single thing that I can put into lists and into persistent storage.
Why? Why not put the whole symbolic object into persistent storage?
That always leads to loading the whole framework when you start the kernel, when you have a persistent configuration, which is not always desirable. And so if all the kernels are strings, then this doesn't happen.
Okay, you know what? That's a hack.
Yes.
Okay, so look, don't we have a tiny piece of code? If we don't have it, we could write it in 5 seconds. Probably an LLM could write it for us that parses the trivial format of kernel configuration, blah, 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 association, string, blah, 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 arrow, blah, blah, blah. That's what I think we should do, and not try and hack it.
Yeah, I mean, the one idea is that when I enter something like that, I could always have a URL form that is equivalent, and then I could just generate that behind the scenes.
Whatever form you want. I mean, whatever you want. To me, this is, if you want to have some El Cheapo string that you can use, that you can parse inside the kernel launcher, right? You can store, along with kernel configuration, you can store a hidden option or a not so hidden option that is the string version of kernel configuration. I would argue that you might be better off just reading the ASCII of kernel configuration in the kernel launcher, okay? Because the format here is going to be very standard, and you can set it up so that whatever is entering kernel configurations canonicalizes them, right? And then it's a trivial piece of code to just parse the ASCII. But if for some reason you don't want to parse the ASCII, just turn this into, in the metadata, turn this into something which you can readily parse.
Yes.
Which could be, I don't care if it's a URL string. I would have thought it was not a good idea to have it be a URL string. I would have thought you should have, triple colons or something separating the fields or something like that. Or new lines or something separating the fields. If you want something that's easier to parse than this, but I don't think this is very hard to parse. Make sense?
What we have done for database reference, which looks similar, it's a URL and then some option, is that basically you write that guy, and if it is a string, it evaluates to an association. Probably you can do the same and then store the whole association. Why the association should auto-load anything if it is just an association?
Yeah, okay. Guys, you can solve this. This is elementary software engineering. You guys are 100 times capable of doing this. We don't need to go over this in this meeting.
Okay, so let's see what will happen, and it may.
Let me see it.
I don't know how quickly the progress display. Okay, so in the first stage it starts to launch, and and now it's already receiving all connections, and you can see update for all of them in parallel. And now it's setting up the kernels, and now it's done. So this was 126 kernels.
Well done.
It's
going to make my life a lot easier.
Yes. I mean, I have some slow machines here. I have some machines on the other side of the Atlantic and so on. So
right. Okay. Let me. This is great. It's going to improve my quality of life, but I need one more thing. Okay?
Yes.
Which is I need a way to launch. See, I often have things which use GPUs, use external programs, etc., etc., etc. And I would like to be able to say, for example, in my parallel evaluate, I'd like to be able to say, instead of one kernel per machine, I'd like to be able to say local or something like that in the parallel evaluate, so that I can evaluate it on my however many kernels I have on my local machine, which I know has whatever crazy thing configured, or I want to be able to evaluate it on a, so
yes.
You've done that.
I mean, this just goes by type, right? So it doesn't know that it's just it's those kernels that you specified as local.
Wait. What do you mean those ones you specified as local? So I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, for example, you could also have an SSH back into localhost, then it would not be considered local.
Fine. That's fine. But I got a further thing to say. Okay. It would be really good if somehow we had a capabilities, array for each kernel configuration, so that, for example, I could say something like, GPU or some such other thing, and it would only run on my machines with GPUs.
Yes. So I mean, this is the parallel environments idea that we discussed last time, where we decided that we would support several concurrent parallel environments. And so you could have one with only local kernels and one with your GPU kernels and things like that.
Right.
That's already noted, yes.
Okay, all right, but not done. Okay, I've got one more thing to raise. Apparently there's an issue with system credential and SSH, which has been biting me, and it's some new feature of some Mac operating system, I think. Let me explain.
Yeah, I mean, there was a problem on Linux, right? I mean, there was a library.
It's to do with the keychain. I don't think it has anything to do with you, Roman. It's
I don't agree that it has nothing to do with Roman. I think that because it's the mechanism used to launch remote kernels with SSH. See, in other words, let me explain. As I understand it, the issue is that programs can no longer retrieve things from the keychain on a Mac. Okay? Only users with GUIs can retrieve things from the keychain. That's my understanding. Does anybody else want to correct me on that?
Well, I think Roman should talk to Roger Dooley after the meeting and see what we can do. I think it's mostly a machine configuration issue.
So how many more macOS versions before the machines become completely useless?
I don't know. Some ways they're getting better, but who knows? Okay.
Okay, I mean it's
I don't
something
think
new
this
that
is
I need
not
to look
one
at.
of this is not an SW special. I'm the only person in the world who's going to
I mean, I don't. When I use SSH, I don't manage the keys. I let the keychain or the SSH agent do it.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that something has gone wrong because we have a system credential mechanism in which interacts with the keychain, and I think that's what Roger is using on my machines to manage the SSH keys, and it broke.
Okay, so we might have to go back to using the keychain itself. Or I don't
think you can use a keychain. I mean, you might have to use some SSH encrypted file thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I mean, I can help debug this and find out.
Right, and then we'll need to generate a workflow for other people to say how to make this work. Okay.
Okay. Good. So I mean, another small thing is, I don't need to show it here, is that I now have an explicit note in the the progress display when the kernels have been launched but are receiving large chunks of distributed definitions, because that would also sometimes look like a hang when it's just a user error to distribute gigabytes of data to kernels.
Question. When things are coming back after the progress monitor says all computations are finished, okay, there can also be a large data transfer, I think, that is unprogressed, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yes, I need to look at that. It would be nice, yes, if that progress display remained up until until everything is done.
Data or something.
Yes, that would help in avoiding tech support calls.
Right. Okay. Excellent. All right. To continue here.
So yes,
I want to say that a general direction that we absolutely need to go in is, I'm sitting here, I say I want to run this in parallel across 1,000 machines. Okay. I really want to be able to do that by, assume I have an AWS account, or better, assume that I'm just paying service credits to us. I want to just be able to do it. See what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, this idea has been around several times. I mean, we now
I'm
have
well
all
aware.
that.
I want to see it actually done.
Yes. So if we can get some more help in our department, then it will happen, because some of the key people who were critical for that are no longer available.
Okay. Well, fine. I think there's an opportunity there. We'll talk about that offline. But to me, that's a project. I hope it's in GPL.
It is, yes.
Okay, but it's an important project. It's really a thing that is
I mean, we have for users. Coming up in 1 or 2 weeks, we have another admin meeting where we can talk about these kind of things in a smaller group. Okay. So parallel table, that is something that you asked for.
Indeed, I did.
So let me explain why the code is as it is now. At the moment, it only parallelizes the first dimension of a table.
Yeah, which is not useful.
And the way it does it is that it doesn't evaluate the table on the master kernel. It symbolically dissects the table in as many pieces as there are kernels, and it sends these compact representations along.
Right.
So that is, if you have a long table, this is the most efficient way to do it. On the other hand, I could argue that if you do have a long table, it's probably not one that you can parallelize efficiently, because you always have a long result. It's completely different with sum and product, which just collapse the result. And so for sum and product, this method is most likely the most efficient one. But
what
for table,
I don't understand. Look. Let's assume in a table, let's assume that there are fixed limits for the table for a start. Okay. We'll deal with the variable limits in a minute. Let's not muddy ourselves up with the corner case. Okay. Let's say fixed limits. See what I'm saying? But
yes,
even if they're variable limits, it is trivial to determine what the complete set of values of the parameters of the table are, right? It's trivial to determine that up front, right? Given that, whatever shape it is, yes, if they're small subtables, you don't want to break them up. If there are a large number of crunchy tables with the parameter I, you don't want to break them up in the parameter J. But if the whole, I mean, come on, you can make up a heuristic for this.
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? Because that's what okay. Step one, understand the shape of the thing you're trying to parallelize, right? Could be, I mean, here's what we know. We know in the end, every individual I and J value can be separately evaluated, right? But it could also be that that you don't want to break up the J evaluations because why do it? Because it doesn't make any sense, because the number of kernels you have is comparable to the number of I values, and there's no reason, it's not going to do any good to break up J values, okay? So you got a bunch of heuristics like that to determine what to do. I mean, like if the number of kernels, it's almost certainly a good idea if the number of kernels is such that you can have I times J, I max times J max more or less things on separate kernels, it's probably a good idea to do that. There may be a corner case where it isn't a good idea. And I strongly suggest that you unravel things in the triangular case of, the limit of J being dependent on
like
I.
this, right?
Right. You should untangle it first, right?
But I mean, of course, I mean, here there could be anything here, right? Or any function.
I know. So untangle it first.
Okay.
That evaluation can be done independent of the payload, right? It is an independent of payload thing. It does not have, it is a, it's like what is it? Course of values recursion type thing. It's a thing where it's, before the mu operator. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's it's primitive recursion all the way down or something. In other words, you know how big so you should get the shape, okay? Then figure out a reasonable way to divide the shape. We're assuming no side effects, and then you do your thing, right? Based on how many kernels you have and whether, it's really pretty obvious. I mean, like if the thing is, I goes up to 20, J goes up to 20, and you have 200 kernels, 200 cores, you know what to do.
Yes.
You don't, right? And just figure out reasonable heuristics if you really want. I'm sure other people here can help.
Steven, may I have one comment here with this? Basically, there are cases where if you even if you have a lot of kernels, but if you distribute like single computation to a single kernel, you can lose a lot in speed. For example, when your expression can be auto-compiled by a table. So it's not quite, you need to have some weight in terms of the intensiveness of a single computation for the function.
Maybe you know that. I mean, maybe you do a computation and find out. I don't know.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that there is another variable here, which is how intense is a single computation.
Fair enough.
I mean, that is a general case. I mean, if the thing in the table is trivial, it's never worth parallelizing because it takes the kernel a lot less time to generate than to send the command and receive the result.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, maybe there's a warning message. Maybe the progress monitor in that case can indicate that you're probably wasting your time. I don't think this meeting. Please, guys, work together to figure out heuristics for this. I'm sure I could figure them out for you. I don't think I'm the right person to do it.
Okay, so let me show you what I'm experimenting with at the moment. Is the complete parallelization of tables. So you go all the way, and in the innermost case, that single computation is then scheduled for parallel computation.
Okay, so I understand. So you're either you've got these two cases, you want to know if you should use a method option. I'm trying to hustle us through because I've got another meeting.
Yes, I mean, of course, I could also stop anywhere in between. I could say if I have 5-dimensional table, I'd parallelize 3 of them, and there the heuristics would be helpful to see.
But let me
where
make
is
the
a good
following
cutoff.
comment. Right? If you write parallel table, you probably want it to be parallelized. If you didn't want it to be parallelized, you would have written table.
Yeah. Yes.
Because table and parallel table can nest arbitrarily.
Yeah, I mean, there's
parallel can't nest more
than
one.
Right? You could have, I mean, you have an explicit parallel table, or you could do parallelize of table, and then it's less clear what to do because then I need to analyze. And so
I understand, but you could say parallel table of table, and then it will do the inner tables on a single core.
Yes, of course. Here's an example. Yes. So
yeah,
that would be for those cases where it gets it wrong, right? So my question here is, I mean, we have a method option which is geared towards the old case where how to hack up the individual computations. And so is there a good way to specify the depth to which you want to unravel the table? Is something like method depth acceptable?
I think it's incomprehensible.
Okay.
Why isn't coarsest grained and finest grained?
I mean, coarsest grained could be construed as meaning first level at the table and finest grained lowest level.
But why don't we say the method could be, multiple things there. So I would say table parallelization level or something. Table parallelization depth. arrow n.
Yes. Do we need the parallelization here because it's already a method of parallel table? With the
table depth seems incomprehensible.
Okay.
But I'm thinking what we could do. Table flattening level, table flattening depth.
It doesn't flatten. I mean, it doesn't change the structure. I mean,
I would call it table parallelization depth. I think if you call it table depth, it's just really incomprehensible.
Okay, no, that's a reasonable name.
Okay.
Should it be something like maximum table parallelization depth? Max table? Like, what if the table one? And
yes. I mean, up to 2 or something. I mean, we do have notation, right?
Carlo is making the point: if the table is only of depth 1 and you ask for depth 2 in the parallelization, what's it going to do?
It's not going to error, I hope, right?
No, I think it's implicitly max. I wouldn't bother to say max. No.
Yeah, I mean the default would be -1 probably anyway.
I'm trying to hustle because we really. I have another meeting we have to start.
Okay.
So can we get through this, please?
Okay. I mean that was really all about tables. I mean for do and sum and product may need different defaults because there the result always collapses.
Think it through. Right.
Okay. And other than that, we do not have any urgent items. We have an update on Rlink and external sessions with R.
Okay, so open the tab.
So Leonid has a demo if you are interested. But Leonid, you can just update us here.
Yeah, instead of a demo, if we are short on time, I can just verbally just say briefly what's the status there.
Good. What is it?
So basically, I've done a number of infrastructural improvements over the last half a year, and the biggest one that still remains to be done is to implement the multiple Rlink sessions, because currently R only has one at a time, can only support one session Rlink. So that's one big stumbling block for to be able to build something, for example, on top of Rlink. And then the other thing is the R virtual environments, they need to be made more robust and probably faster, because right now it takes quite a long time to actually create a single virtual environment in R. So I'm going to look into what Ricardo recently discovered for Python, those new package managers that might also provide faster way of provisioning our virtual environments. And then the last thing.
Let me ask a question.
So go ahead.
But our language, why do we not need, for other people using us, do they need a virtual environment? Should we provide such a thing, or do they not need it because our engineering is kind of more modern and better and so
on? Well, virtual environments are typically needed to isolate whatever, let's say someone builds something on top of R. It could be us, it could be someone else. But if they want to separate that from any other R-related functionality that they have, be that their own R installations that they use for other purposes or whatnot, then we do need virtual environments.
I'm asking the question then, for Wolfram language, should we provide a virtual environment?
Oh, for Wolfram language?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, it has to be thought. I mean, we have to think about it, but
I'm asking.
I would argue that it's not super useful, because it's everything we did is very monolithic. You don't expect people to need the conflicted version of the same packlet. That's what they're good.
Right. I mean, maybe these virtual environments are dealing with a mess of these, library-rich, sprawling systems.
I mean,
it's to disambiguate lots of conflicting packages. So it's
which is not our issue. Not our issue.
It's not our issue.
Everything we have is matching
now
components.
we become massively successful and the packlet repo explodes, then it might become useful.
Okay, but that's because when there's a mess, you're saying it's for packaging up the mess so people don't see it, but we don't have a mess to begin with.
Steven, I personally partly agree with Carlo, but not completely, because if we think from what we have right now, then I agree with Carlo. But if we think about the possibilities that we could have, for example, more granular code, like the packages which are like WFRs, which are pretty small. And then if we also think that eventually many users will have their own and we want to avoid all kind of conflicts automatically.
Okay, I understand. I got it. This is not a problem we have right now. We've done a better job of, keeping consistency. We just don't have to worry about this right now.
Yeah.
It's not an important thing for us right now.
I mean, it's not just we've done a better job. It's also that I think that in the Parklet repo, most of the things are written by Wolfram employees. So
I think we've done a better cultural job.
Yeah,
it's also what it comes down to. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Let's move on. We got to move on to another meeting. So, Leonid, you had one more thing to say.
Yes, I also wanted to say that I really need to move Rlink to better error handling, and I'm going to use the new error handling functionality that I also am working on with the other people in the error handling team.
Good.
And this will serve both purposes. It will improve Rlink and it will improve error handling.
Good, and I want to hear about error handling at some point before too very long. Okay, quick look at IDE support, and then we need to move.
Okay, there is. This is almost done, the new version. There are just 2 items. One is waiting for legal clearance, and the other is uploading the code to our GitHub account to Microsoft.
Okay, all right. I don't. So that's great. I mean, it's great. But is there anything we need to talk about here?
No, just a status update.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all very much. See you all soon.
Okay.